So come on down to your back. Just as you get there, bend your knees, wiggle around, do whatever you need to do. Whatever you need to do to feel and kind of get a sense of where your sacrum is, the backside of your pelvis, your shoulder blades, the back of your skull. And sometimes giving yourself a little wiggle around to find those spots. You can find almost like the bony edges underneath you. Kind of just shimmy around so you feel like, okay, here's my spine landing on the ground. Now bring your hands to your hip bones here. And find your hip bones and find the top of your hip bones. Okay, just the top edge of there. And you'll feel how there's these points that are in the front on each side of your pelvis. Okay. Now bring your fingertips around those edges. Now when you take a breath out, I want you to tip your pelvis, and your hands are there just to give you some feedback. So you're going to tip your pelvis so that those tips of your pelvis are drawing towards like the base of your rib cage. Okay. So then you'll feel how maybe there's a little bit more flattening to your low back. Yeah. It's like you're taking your pubic bone here. So if you imagine like two diagonal lines coming towards the center, there's your pubic bone right there in the center. The two halves come together in the front, okay? So now, with your hands there at your hip bones, tip your pelvis in the other direction. So you're rocking on the backside of your pelvis, and you're gonna feel almost like your tailbone, right, reaching downward towards the ground, or like you're drawing your pubic bone down towards your heels. So for some people thinking about the hip bones in front, and for some people thinking about the pubic bone, one of them or the other is more helpful. And so that's why I'm giving you both. So that when you exhale, take it the opposite way and just feel how that translates into how the rest of your spine moves, okay? So for some of us, we're just maybe thinking about what's going on in the base of the belly, around that space from the bottoms of your ribs towards your pubic bone. And some might start to notice a little bit more what's going upstairs, like through the rib cage and the shoulder blades. But the reason why I'm saying that, and then breathe in, tip it the other way, and we're pausing in these little places here. We're still breathing. We're not holding our breath. I want you to start to maybe explore or put the emphasis in where your body needs the attention. If you have low back issues, you might stay focused just on what's going on the lower part of your spine today. And the upstairs we'll address another time, okay? If, for example, though, that you have a lot of shoulder pain or upper spine stiffness, exhale, tip your spine the other way, taking your sweet, sweet time, feeling the edges of your spine reach down into the mat. You might put a little bit more attention into how that translates upstairs into the upper part of your spine from how you move your pelvis. Okay, so you get to choose. I'm going to give you cues around both. Inhale, tip it the other way. So really intentional to move really slowly and notice how your spine articulates. For many of us, what will happen, exhale, go the other way. And you can move at your pace, of course. But for many of us, what happens is that instead of each vertebrae doing its job, continuing to move your pelvis nice and slow, just feel how it rocks. And maybe you'll start to feel that rocks the rest of your spine. Or just stay focused in one area as you need, moving with your breath. But what happens for some of us, instead of each of the processes of our spine doing their individual job, what can happen is that we move in chunks. So for example, it might be that instead of my thoracic spine being able to segment, that my whole rib cage moves, right? Or we move in larger sections. So another really great place to do it on your next exhale. Notice the base of your rib cage reaching down to the mat, and then go down. So even if you take your finger to the front of your belly, and you can almost trace, add little polka dots down the front of your belly. And you could feel here now how each vertebrae can reach down into the floor. Yeah. And then do that the opposite way. See if you can lift each vertebrae at a time. And it's so hard to do. And for many of us, it will feel like it moves like the whole low back lifts up off of the ground there. Okay. It's not uncommon. So meet yourself where you're at. I think that many times with any movement practices or any other therapeutic endeavors that we take, we have to first start by meeting ourselves wherever it is that we're at. Not what we wish it would be or where we want to go, but where are we at today? So one more time to inhale. So wherever you're at in your breath, no worry about it. We'll all catch up. We'll be plenty of time to take both. We're going to do one more inhale and one more exhale. To tip the pelvis so that the pubic bone is tipping down towards your heels or down towards the floor. And then to take your pubic bone the other direction, your pelvis the other direction, that's a posterior pelvic tip or tilt, where your pubic bone is now drawing towards the direction of your belly button. Now come to neutral and find the space, maybe even wiggle a little back and forth. And kind of just get this sense of now how the natural curvatures of your spine land, how you land on the floor here. Now pick up your feet, take your hands to your knees. You can also let your hands go away from your knees at any time, okay? So now notice how the spine had been moving this whole time. Now we're going to add some hip movement to it and notice how that influences what's going on in our spine. So that when you take your next breath out, draw your knees towards your belly. You don't have to pull your knees in, just your hands are there just to aid. And then when you exhale, draw your knees away from you and notice how the pelvis wants to tip. Let it for now. And then bring your knees towards you and notice how the pelvis wants to posterior tip or tilt and the low back reaches down. And then take your knees away from you and let the pelvis take in that anterior pelvic tilt. Just let it, as long as it feels okay in your low back. And then we're going to change it here in just a minute. One more time. Bring your knees towards you. Feel how there's more of a rounding in your low back. And take your knees away from you. And feel how, right, the pelvis wants to tip anteriorly, right? There's a little bit more of an arch in the low back, okay? Now bring the knees towards you. Bring them in. Again, your hands can be at your knees. They can also be behind your knees. Now, feel how there can be some action with your rib cage and towards the center of your belly. It's almost like your rib cage and your hip bones are coming towards one another here some, okay? They're knitting in towards the center. Now keep that and take your knees away from you. Can you keep it? Can you keep it? And only take your knees away from you to where you can still keep your spine how it is, right? Still the engagement through the core, which might mean the knees only come out a few inches and then bring the knees back in as you exhale. Okay, that's it. So again, you're letting your knees come away from you. You might even think about taking a little tuck of your chin, keep drawing in at your rib cage, let your knees go away from you, but only as far where you can still keep it active in the center. As soon as you start to arch your back, I'm going to say that your knees have gone too far. Or if you feel any discomfort in your low back, then you've gone too far. Allow the legs to move in a way to where the spine still feels like it's stable and it feels okay. Yeah? And just feel that, because you can imagine in shapes where, like oat, hint, 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 about where we start to fall apart some at the core when the legs start to take different shapes, or how this happens in lunges and things like that, where the legs are moving in a different way and how the spine sometimes wants to follow it. But what if we can stay neutral or stable, engaged in our center while our legs move? Okay, one more time here to bring the legs in and then give yourself a hug. Rock a little back and forth over your spine or over your pelvis here, a little side to side. If you want to take some circles with your knees, that too can feel really, really nice. Go both directions. And then roll all the way onto your left side. So you're gonna let your whole body tip. Bring your left arm out long, stack your knees. And if you wanna bring blocks here between your knees, you can have a block between your knees and your ankles if you want, or your knees can be stacked on top of one another, whatever works best for you. You could also have a block underneath your head in order to support your spine in a space that's more neutral, okay? So any of those options to add blocks is a beautiful thing. Take your right hand on top of your left hand, okay? Now you're gonna keep your knees, you're gonna keep your pelvis just like it is. Now that's gonna be the trickiest part here, okay? So take your right hand, that's the hand on top, and start to trace above your head, and then turn your palm up and roll to your left shoulder blade and let your right arm sweep out to the right, okay? Now your gaze might peek up at the ceiling, it might peek at your right thumb. It's okay, wherever it decides it's gonna go, let it naturally go. Now bring your right arm, trace it right back in that same shape. So reach your arm up and then turn your palm down, rotating at your upper arm bone, and bring your right hand on top of your left hand. Yeah. And move as slow as you need to. Tracing the right arm up. You can also keep a bend in the elbow. About where your right arm starts to come in front of your face, turn your palm up. Start to rotate it. Rotate open at your spine. Now your right elbow can keep a bend, especially when it reaches back behind you. And notice when your hips want to go along with it. Okay, and then bring your arm back in your pace, in your time. One more time, just like that, moving at your pace. Now, when I do this, when, just all on its own, I really take my time with it. Sometimes I can even get a really nice little release in my low back. But if you have any shoulder pain, neck pain, this is a really beautiful, simple shape to explore with, okay? The next time when your right hand stacks on top of your left, just give yourself a little pause there. And then we're gonna roll to the other side. So you might, if you wanna keep looking at me, you might set yourself up and come to the other side, or you might just simply roll over. Okay, but we're gonna do the exact same shape so I can still see you. I'm gonna pick myself up and come to the other side. Again, there could be a block underneath your head. There could be a block between your knees and between your ankles, or a bolster even between your knees and your ankles. Stack your left hand on top of your right. And then you're gonna sweep your left arm up. You can always keep a bend in your left elbow. And then start to pivot at your upper arm bone, turn your palm up. And then you're gonna roll to your right shoulder, and your left arm doesn't even have to touch the ground. Does not have to touch the ground. Keep a bend in your left elbow. And then reach your left arm up, come all the way back around. Really nice and slow, remembering here and noticing how the rhythm here in the shoulder, so as you reach your left arm up alongside your left ear, turn open at your left palm, reach it back behind you. Keeping your shoulders or your hips stacked. So sometimes you have to think about drawing your left knee a little forward, especially when you're rotating open. And then one more time. As your left arm sweeps up, rotate open at your left arm, open up your chest, press down through your right arm, draw your left knee forward. And then bring it all the way back around. Take your time. You can move at a much different pace than I, and it is okay. Slower, oftentimes in those shapes, is better. Bring your left hand on top of your right, but we only have 60 minutes together. Give yourself a pause. Now take your left hand, bring it on top, and then bring yourself up. So you can lengthen your left leg, bring yourself all the way up, and come up here onto a seat. As you come up to a seat, you can have a seat on your blocks, or you can bring blocks underneath your knees and give yourself some support underneath your legs, okay? So take your arms now in front of you, like you're pressing into a wall. Okay. Now, when you breathe out, I want you to imagine that you're still pressing into a wall. Tuck your chin, lengthen the back of your neck, spread between your shoulders, keep pressing into the wall, keep pressing into the wall. And now reach the front of your body, and you're gonna start to feel that tip in your pelvis here. It's like you're tipping your pubic bone up towards your belly button. You're rocking some tailbone coming underneath you. Yeah, I think it's a seated cat pose. Okay, now bring your hands down in front of your knees And then press your arms down into your legs and start to lift here, starting from your pelvis and lifting yourself up, taking your time. And use that press down like there's this pull back. Yeah. Lift up through your chest. Your gaze does not have to lift. You might even just peek up your chin a teeny tiny bit. And then arms lift up, press, 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 press. Like you're pressing the wall. Now, this is really fun to do at a wall. It's a great one to do at the wall. Yeah. And then keep pressing, and then you keep flexing your spine. So your flexion through your spine is coming from your core. So you're bringing attention, you're drawing your rib cage down towards your pelvis here. That's it. Hands are going to connect in front of your legs here, in front of your knees, and then press down and start to tip from your pelvis. You're reaching your pubic bone down towards the ground and keep lifting up through your chest. And then maybe your gaze, but doesn't have to go far. Oftentimes we want to lift up and extend the chest right away or extend the cervical spine, but resist that a little bit today. And then arms go up, press into that imaginary wall. Press, 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 press. And again, this is another shape where you could really, really, really take your sweet time. And then hands come down, arms come down, press down, tip through your pelvis, tip up through your chest. Maybe you start to tip up just slightly through your gaze. That's it. Now, roll forward onto your hands and your knees. So take that same shape that we were just doing in cat-cow. Same exact shape, okay? Except now the legs are oriented here, just slightly different, okay? Press down through your shin bones. Press down through your hands. Keep pressing the hands like you were pressing away that imaginary wall. Chin towards your chest. Lengthen the back of your neck. Keep pressing away the ground. Keep spreading between your shoulders. Keep lengthening your low back. Keep lengthening your tailbone down towards the ground. You can hear how much I'm working. And then starting from your pelvis, take it the opposite direction. So lift up from your tailbone. Start to extend through your low back. Extend forward through your rib cage. Extend forward. Now add that pull down. Like you're pulling your palms back. They're not actually going to go anywhere, but that's energetically where they're going. That's it. Exhale, press away the ground. Press, 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 press. Press your shins. Press the front of your body to your back body. Yeah. Use your core here to draw into yourself. And then you can't go any further. Then keep pressing down through your shins. Pull back at your palms. Lift from the back of your pelvis. Extend through your spine. Taking your time. Keep pulling through your palms. Yeah, and then when you cannot arch your spine anymore, you cannot extend it anymore, then one more time to exhale, press. Press your shins, press your hands. You're almost pressing so much where it almost feels like you could hover your knees. That's how much you're pressing. And then inhale, take it the other way. And if you ever find that pressing like this is bothersome to your wrists, you can always take the blocks like how we did last time where we brought them underneath our forearms. It's a great way to modify. Now come into a space that feels neutral. So you're drawing into your center tabletop so that your spine here feels like, remember how when you were laying on your back on the floor with your knees bent and I said, just notice the natural curvatures of your spine. Okay? It's kind of what we're after, except now we're not getting the feedback. Curl under your toes. Lift up your knees. Shift your hips back and then lift up your hips. Now you do not have to lift very far. Your knees do not have to unbend in any significant way, right? You just start to unbend your knees where you can still press down through your hands, lift up through your hips, take your head, take your chin a little side to side. Give yourself a breath in here. Stay for your breath out. Now take a walk to the top of your mat. Take your time. Press down through your feet. Press down through your hands. Maybe start to lift to your fingertips. That's okay. Walk your feet forward. Once your feet get up towards your thumbs, take your feet wide and forward fold. Hinge at your hips. Bend at your knees. Allow yourself the support that you need. You might have blocks there to support you and you're under your hands. That's it. Then you tick-tock a little back and forth. That's it. Take your chin a little side to side. And then bend generously into your knees. Bend generously down into your knees and press down through your feet and begin to press down to lift all the way up to come up to stand. As you stand up in your feet, just take a moment, first time vertical. Give yourself a little waddle in your feet. Feel them underneath you. Even lift your toes here. Spread out through your feet and then toe by toe. Pinky toe, fourth toe, third toe, second toe. Again, they kind of sometimes want to go in groups. That's okay. That's pretty normal. Yeah. Breathe down into your feet. Lift up through your arms. Breathe all the way in, but gather into your center. So gather into your core. Gather into your rib cage. And notice when you lift your arms, if you want to flare out through your ribs. Now, take your hands, bring them into a prayer, and bring them down in front of your heart. Now, as you bring them down into your heart, tuck your chin. Lengthen the back of your neck. And now, you're going to take your palms, if you even want to take a peek at me, and we're going to dive down. So you're going to take your palms and even turn your finger pads down. Another way that you could do this, instead of just diving down, like literally diving down, like when we put it in a swimming pool, right? You could also take your hands on top of your legs and give yourself a little feedback to press. So there's another way. So if that is helpful, you can do either one, okay? So with hands at your heart or hands down in front of your hips, take your chin towards your chest. And now you're going to feel that same rounding spread between your shoulders. And then you're going to take your fingertips down if they're there at your heart or hands are at your hips. And keep rounding your spine. Bend into your knees, bend into your knees. Yeah, hand at your hips, bend into your knees. And fold and keep pressing your upper back. Yeah. Draw into yourself. Make yourself into this little ball. That's it. Bring your hands down towards the ground. Take your hands here in front of your shins. Press into your shins and lengthen your chest. So you're going to press into your shins and lift your chest forward. Breathe in. That's it. And then exhale, fold. Now, step your left toes back. As you step your left toes back, lower down your back knee. And when you lower down your back knee, you're going to roll over your back toes here some. So you're going to bring your left knee so it's more in line underneath your left hip. So your right heel is going to reach down, your left knee underneath your hip, and then bring yourself up as you press down through your left knee. Let your arms lift up. And again, notice if your arms lift up, if a big back bend happens, okay? So draw into that space, rib cage kind of drawing towards one another. Now, again, take your hands down into a prayer, interlace your fingers, and bring them on top of your right thigh. Press down into your right thigh, spread your shoulder blades, chin in towards your chest, and drag your left hip forward. Use your left glute, to press forward. You might even get a little stretch to your back thigh there. Keeps pressing your hands down into your leg. And now keep pressing your hands to your leg and start to lift up to your chest, lift up through the crown of your head, but keep pressing your left hip forward. Bring your exhale, bring your hands down towards the ground, lift up your back knee and step back for a downward facing dog. Inhale, roll forward for a plank. Lower your knees to the ground, both knees to the ground, and press your hips back. You could keep your toes curled under or come down to the tops of your feet for a child's pose. When you're in child's pose, you're pressed down through your palms. So your stay is a little active. Your forehead doesn't even have to come to the ground. And then when you inhale, you're going to drag your palms back. So you're going to pull and you wrap your elbows in here some. So wrap your elbows towards the center, pull back your palms and shift the weight forward, tabletop. Yeah, you got it. Curl under your toes, lift your knees and step your hips up and back, downward facing dog. You're going to step your right foot forward. So as you step your right foot forward, you might tent onto your right fingertips. You might even lower to keep a bend in both of your knees and then shift forward. So you find the way where your right foot comes forward. That's it. And then lift your fingertips, or you could bring your blocks over and lift up through your chest. Press back through your left heel, plug in at your right hip and draw your chest forward. That's it. Now you're going to press down strong through your right heel, bend your back leg slightly and shift forward. So you're standing at the top of your mat, halfway lift as you breathe in. Exhale as you fold. Hinge at your knees some. Yeah, it's like your butt sticking back some. Press down through your feet and begin to rise up. Strength from your legs. Strength from your legs to draw yourself up. Let your arms lift up. Breathe in. Exhale, pull your hands down in front of your heart. Again, you can turn your palms down and do that little dive, because that dive is going to help you with that spreading of your shoulder blades, or hands can come to the tops of your legs. Hinge at your knees, and we're going to fold again. So as you hinge, chin in towards your chest, keep drawing in. So think cat back here. A little different forward fold today. This is not typically always how we forward fold, but today we're playing flexion extension, so why not? A little advantageous is all. Take your hands to the front of your shins, press into your shins, and extend your spine. Yeah, reach your chest forward. Now lengthen the back of your neck. And then exhale, fold again, and step your right toes back. As you step your right toes back, you can always take your left foot a little bit wider on your mat too. Roll forward over your ball mound of your back foot and lower down your back knee. And take your time so that the right knee is underneath the right hip. Reach down strong through your left heel and bring yourself up. Your back toes could be curled under, or you can uncurl your toes and really work with pressing the shin down. Interlace your fingers and bring them down on top of your left thigh. Keep pressing down through your right shin. Draw your right hip forward and press and spread your shoulders, chin in towards your chest. Hug in here. It's like your pubic bone is drawing towards your belly button. Yeah. And then keep pressing through your hands and extend. Lift up through your spine. That's it. Bring your hands down to the ground. Curl under your back toes. Lift up your back knee and step back, downward facing dog. Yeah, take your time. That's it. Inhale, roll forward for a plank. Lower your knees. Push your hips back. Your toes could stay curled under, or you can come to the tops of your feet. Keep pressing into your palms. Keep pressing into your palms. Yeah. And you can let your forehead lengthen the back of your neck. So it's not about reaching your forehead down to the ground. Instead, reach the front of your throat to the back of your neck and lengthen the back of your neck. So that when you come forward, wrap the insides of your elbows towards one another with a little bend in your elbows and pull yourself forward. Tabletop, curl under your toes, hips up and back, downward facing dog. You got it. As you step your left foot forward, again, sometimes a little shift is okay. It's okay. You can lift up to your left fingertips. Take your time. It might be a couple steps. You could take your left hand and help your left foot forward. Yeah, you can even lower down the back knee. Lift to your fingertips or come to blocks. Press down strong through your left heel, even a little bend in your back knee. So as you shift forward, you load your left heel. Press, 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 press. Step your right foot forward. Take a halfway lift. Breathe in. Exhale, bend at your knees. Hinge at your hips as you fold. That's it. Let your head and your neck go if you can. Reach down through your feet. Load your feet. Reach down through your feet. Pull in to lift up. Let your arms drift up. Breathe in. Exhale, hands in front of your heart. Just give yourself a moment here. Take one hand here into the front of your belly and bring one hand, if it works, in your shoulder to your back. Or to, I take that back, not to your back, to your pelvis. So just below your low back. Okay, it could be on the back of your hand or it could be on your palm. Now for a moment in this space, take your hand, if it's on the backside of your pelvis, and draw it down and feel that tip forward, that lift up for your pubic bone. You'll feel that at the base of your belly. Okay. Now, bend your knees, a little bend in your knees, and give yourself a little bounce. Now, take it the other way. So feel almost like your back hand can pull, drag up. Press your sacrum into your hand. Press your sacrum into your hand and feel how now your tailbone, it's like your pelvic, this is the bowl of your pelvis, is dumping or pouring out, okay? So you're lifting the back of your sacrum. And then take it the other way. Lengthen. You can press your hand down. It's just giving you a little bit of feedback there, a little bit of aid. And feel how your pubic bone is drawing up. That's it. And then one more time, press your sacrum into your hand. And you'll feel how, right, the pelvis wants to keep tipping. This is an anterior pelvic tilt. Now, if I told you to let that go and then find somewhere in between, not tucking, not lifting, right? It's somewhere in between. Sometimes a little bounce in the knees is really nice there. Kind of wiggle it out. Exactly. Lift up through your arms. Breathe in. As you exhale, take your hands through your center. Tuck your chin towards your chest. Spread between your shoulder blades. Bend at your knees. Bend at your knees. Reach into your back body. Fingertips are going to pour down. Yeah, keep rounding. Yeah, just a little different forward fold today. Sometimes we play. We do things a little, unconventional. Take your hands to the front of your shins. Press into your shins. Lift your chest forward. Press. That's it. Exhale, fold again. Step your left toes back. Lower down your back knee. So again, you're rolling your back. You're bringing your left back knee down. You're rolling to the ball of your foot first, your toes, so your left knee comes down in front or comes underneath your left hip. Press down through your left knee or left shin. Press down through your right heel. Rise up. Breathe in. Now, this time, take your left hand towards your right leg. Okay. If your fingertips can even sneak around to the outside of your leg, now press your leg into your fingertips. Now your right arm is lifted. You're going to turn your palm away from you and now spin open at your chest. Remember that twist that we took on our side? Keep drawing your left hip forward. Yes, squeeze your left glute forward. That's it. Your gaze could follow. Your gaze could just go to the right, or your gaze could even stay forward. More moment here. Now you're going to lift your right arm all the way back up. Turn your palm so it's facing towards your center, and let both hands come down to the ground. Curl under your back toes. Lift up your back knee, and then come up for a crescent warrior. So we're going to be standing here on the ball mound of our back foot and pressing down through our right heel. Same idea. Draw the left hip forward. Yeah, use the back glute here. That's it. To draw your left hip forward. And so your right knee, it doesn't have to stack over your right ankle. It can, though. And that's where you get to play. You get to play and explore what makes the most sense for you. Lift your arms up. Breathe in if they weren't already there. Stay for your breath out. One more time here. Notice if you lose the back glute. Yep. And then exhale. Bring your hands all the way down. Now press down through your hands and shift your hips up and back. Downward facing dog. Roll forward for a plank. Reach your heel bones back. There's a little plank there. Lower your knees. Hips back. Child's pose, but very active child's pose today. Toes can curl under. Already feel how maybe, again, front of your throat, draw into the back of your neck. When you pull forward, soften into your elbows, wrap the inside of your elbows in, and notice what that does to your shoulder blades. Pull your palms back, draw yourself forward into this cow pose, so extend your spine this time. That's it. And now exhale, cat, so round, press away the ground, and then lift your knees, hips up and back, downward facing dog. Step your right foot forward. Lift to your fingertips, press down through your right heel. Shift forward, left foot steps forward. Take a halfway lift as you breathe in. Fingertips can come to your shins. Exhale, fold. Press down through your feet, rise. Exhale, pause your hands in front of your heart. Fingertips turn down, spread between your shoulders, bend your knees. Yeah, hinge at your hips. You can flex your spine as you fold. Yes, we can. Press your hands to your shin. Extend like you're peeling your heart forward. That's it. Exhale, fold again. And then step your right toes back. Lower down the back knee. Press down through your left shin and your left heel and your right shin or your right knee. Bring yourself up. Draw your right hip forward. Use your glute. That's it. So it's not quite a tuck. It feels like it's some. Take your right hand towards your left leg. So if your fingertips, if it works for you, to have your fingertips a little bit around the outside, Press your leg into your left hand. That's your right hand. Press your left leg into your right hand. Turn your left palm, and then keep turning, open up your chest. But keep pulling on your own leg there. Keep drawing your right hip forward. That is a juicy twist in the lunge. If your knee was lifted, it could be a revolved crescent lunge. Bring your left arm up, turn your palm towards your center as you square your shoulders. Bring your hands down, curl under your back toes, lift your back knee, and come up for, there's the crescent lunge. Now, same idea here. Squeeze your right glute, draw your right hip forward, a little softness in your back knee. So you've got this variation in how much you bend into your front leg. You also have an option here to take your left foot a little bit wider and give yourself a little bit wider base of support for a little bit more stability. Yeah, breathe all the way in here. Notice if you want to, right? Extend through your spine, that's it. When you exhale, bring your hands down. So hinge at your left hip, bring your hands down, and step back for a downward facing dog. Inhale, roll forward for a plank. Lower your knees. Child's pose variation today, toes curled under or on the tops of your feet. Press your palms, draw the front of your throat to the back of your neck. When you pull forward, wrap your elbows in. You can even have a little bend in your elbows. Pull back your palms and pull forward into the extension of your spine. So here we are into this cow shape of our spine. Yeah, and then press your palms. Exhale, keep pressing, keep pressing, keep pressing, keep pressing. Round your back, draw the front of your body in cat pose. Curl into your toes, lift your knees, neutralize your spine as you shift your hips up and back. That's sometimes the trickiest part, is finding that neutral spine after rounding it. And then on your next exhale, step your left foot forward. Lift to your fingertips or hands to blocks. Press down through your left heel. Shift the weight forward. Step your right foot forward. Halfway lift. Fingertips can come to your shins or on the ground or on blocks. And then exhale, fold again. Reach down through your feet. Rise all the way up. Exhale. Pause your hands at your heart. Let your hands release at your sides. And again, notice your spine. And sometimes, again, a little reset, a little bend in the knees to feel how the spine lands, how the pelvis and the shoulders can stack, how the back of the skull and the shoulders might eventually stack. I have to work really hard on that. Give yourself there a moment. Breathe into your feet. Lift up through your arms. Exhale, hands down into your heart. This time, we're going to fold all the way down, all the way. So fold, forward fold first. And then we're going to fold enough where our butt's going to come down to the ground, okay? So we're diving in. Now start to hinge and bend at your knees more. And your butt's going to come down to the ground. It can also come down onto a block. So you might bring a block behind you. And reach your fingertips forward. Keep lowering, yeah. And you might lower to a block. My block is too far back behind me. Or no block. I'm just going to throw mine away. It wasn't working. I got rid of it. Your knees will come apart some and find your way down. Your hands come down to the ground, support you. You can. You know, sometimes you just try to make things work and you're like, screw it. I was trying to show something and it wasn't working. Okay, here we are. So find the bony edges of your pelvis. So notice if you rock back or you rock forward. And just rock over your pelvis here in sitting. Your knees can be apart. Yeah, whatever you need to do. Define that space. Now, this is where a block is handy. Look, I have one, and I have a second one. I don't like these blocks. They're super squishy. They're not very helpful for what I want to show you. But sometimes sitting up on a block, see how much more vertical I get there? It also gives you a little bit more feedback underneath your pelvis. I feel like I'm just going to tip over on that one. I'm spoiled by my cork blocks I've been using for so long now. Okay, so here we are. I'll quit like having a squirrel moment here. So the temptation is going to be that, remember how when we were laying on our back and we were flexing our legs, right? When we were bringing our legs towards us, what the spine wants to do. So we're kind of fighting that here a little bit. So take your hands. You can either be in front of your knees or behind your knees. And for a moment, just lift a shin. It doesn't have to be very far, right? It's just lifting a leg. But can you keep your pelvis and your hips where they are and lift a leg? And then do that again. Lift a leg. And if you start to feel any aching in your low back, just stay here. You might even give yourself a pause like so. We'll all pause like that in just a moment. Okay, after you've done both legs, then do that. Now round. Even wrap around your legs or hold around the front of your shins and actively pull on your own legs and reach into your back here. And then do the opposite. So rock forward, lift up through your chest. Here we are. So you're not forward in your sitting bones, you're just behind them. And so there's the tricky spot in trying to find them. What happens when we think about, and you could just stay where we were before. You could also stay with holding back behind the legs or lift both of your heels. And then maybe pick up both of your feet. They don't have to go very far. They don't have to go very far. It could be here. And this is where a block, also super helpful, having a block underneath your bum. Or both of your shins can come up. Yeah, you could hold your legs there. Or you can let your hands go. Yeah, Deidre. That's it. Yes, Maria's most favorite thing of all time. No. She still loves me. Bring your hands back underneath your legs. Bring your feet down and then round. Yeah, even pull. If you want to wrap, hold a wrist, you can, or hold around the front of your shins. Press into your back body. And then bring yourself up. All right, you ready? Now imagine putting those two things together to come all the way down. Now, you watch me first. What I want you to think about, remember how much I was saying, press, press, press. And like, as you press down through your shins and you press down through your hands, press into your back body. The same idea is going to come here as we lower ourselves all the way down to the floor, okay? So what you're going to do, and you could hold behind your knees, absolutely. Or I find, remember that pressing where we were doing before? It could be a press or a reach, right? But there's still this, and what happens is that when the shoulders come away from one another in shoulder retraction, it's going to aid in spinal flexion. That when we're coming down, we're actively flexing the spine. What muscles flex the spine? Our rectus abdominis. So those muscles that go from here at between the rib cage here at the top and down to the pubic bone, right? They shorten and we flex our spine. So if I roll down, there's that rocking, there's that reaching, just like that cat pose. But keep hugging in, pulling in, keep flexing through the center, keep reaching or behind the legs. And then vertebrae by vertebrae, yes, you can. You can join me when you're ready. And take your sweet, 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 sweet time. And just we're all gonna have a spot, and it's all gonna be in different spots when you feel like, oh my God, I can't hold it anymore, and you just want to fall to the ground. Those are the moments to pause. And then once you get there, like, ah. Yes. Once you get there, bend your knees, knock your knees up to side. That's it. Let it all go. Let your body breathe itself, because naturally our body is holding onto tension right when we're doing that. Absolutely, absolutely. So now we're seeing what we can do to release some of that tension. So much where we began class here again. Bring your feet down to the ground. Bring your arms either out to the sides or maybe even a goalpost shape. And then just another round here of tipping your pelvis down towards your toes. Again, there's the bowl as it's pouring forward. So you'll feel more of an arch in your low back. Use your core muscles to support the pelvis in moving. You might even feel how the glutes turn on a little bit to rock your pelvis the other way. Yeah. So now you might feel how the low back reaches down to the floor. Pick your knees up. Let your knees fall to the left. Now this time you have the option. You can roll to your side, stack your legs, especially if you have any low back or SI issues. This is a really great variation. Also, it's going to put more work in the thoracic spine. So you could roll to your side and open up the twist from here. Or you could let the legs stagger a little bit. That's going to allow your right shoulder blade to come down to the ground. But when we do that, there's a little bit different action in the spine. So you get to play with what makes the most sense for you. You can also bring a block underneath your head. Give your neck a little ease in that shape as well. Have a little softness, a little bend in your right elbow. When the legs stay stacked, for most of us, the shoulder is not going to come down to the ground, and that's okay. Are there sometimes very twisting? I say, try to keep your shoulder on the ground. Yeah, I do. But I don't like to do the things the same way every time. Our bodies are these dynamic machines. With that variation, when we vary the way that we move and yet we move with awareness, it's really amazing what we discover along the way. So we explore, we stay curious, we try different things. And when one way doesn't work, we try it another way. That's all good. Press down through your arms and then bring yourself back through the middle. And then let your knees go to the right. Now, again, you've got two options. My goodness, there's more than two, but today there's two that we've talked about. Stacking the knees, so now the pelvis and the shoulders stay more stacked, and that's the intention there. Then to open it up and twist. But if that brings stress into your shoulder because it's not on the ground, feel free, you gotta do what you gotta do. And you can stagger it, absolutely. You could also go back to what we were doing in the beginning, right? With that just rotating and opening. Your gaze can stay up at the ceiling. Your gaze can turn to the left. Now roll all the way to your right side this time. Roll all the way to your right side. Press down through your left hand and bring yourself all the way up. So as you bring yourself up, again, keep a bend into your knees, and you get to choose, and you can always change this. You can change how far away your knees, how bent your knees are. But remember here how we were doing this rocking forward, rocking back. Intentionally, what I want you to do is rock forward. So create a little bit of that anterior pelvic tilt. So remember how we were lifting the back of our sacrum up into our hand? Just shift our weight a little forward. That's what I want you to find here. And from that space, hinge at your hips. Maybe you hold your feet. Maybe your hands come down to the floor. You reach your chest forward towards your feet. So remember that halfway lift? And we were pressing into our shins and pulling our chest forward. Here you can do that by holding your feet or even holding behind your knees and dragging your chest forward. And then from there, fold. And now you get to round. Yeah, now round in. I know. All the yogis wait for that. The cue of, can I just fold in and can we just go to Shavasana now? Right? You take your chin a little side to side. Notice that when you fold it, there might be that rounding in the low back. There's that posterior pelvic tilt, so now it goes in the opposite way. So you might play in between here. You can stay if you're happy, stay. Or pull on your own feet, lift up through your chest. Lift up from the back of your sacrum. And then fold again. And what's cool about that is sometimes each time you come into it, there's a little bit more unbend of the knees, maybe. And then you can repeat that. pull on your own feet or pull behind your legs, lift your chest, and then reach forward, fold. And before you know it, it's like, okay, you find your sweet spot. And your sweet spot can be anywhere along those spaces that we just were. Any of those spaces. Very slowly take your time. Start to find your way up. And then all the way back down. So if you would like to go all the way back down, like how we did before, that rippling, rolling octave coming down, you can. Or you can say, I already did that once today, Sarah, and that was enough. And just find your way down to the ground any way you want. You can also take legs up the wall or up onto a chair. Let's find some moments here for rest. Allow yourself to settle, add supports where you need to, add props where you need to. And as you land, again, notice how your spine lands. Yeah, notice the curvature of your spine. If your body naturally sits in more of an anterior pelvic tilt, which means a little bit, oftentimes more of an increased curve in your low back, and you find that having your legs on the ground like so brings attention to your low back, bring something underneath your knees, bend your knees. Mm-hmm. Namah Shivaya, 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 Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. Maybe you'll stay just as you are a little bit longer. Take your time, do what you need to do. Maybe eventually you start to transform the shape that you're in to an upright seat. But take the journey that is yours. Take the wiggles that you need, the time that you need. Because the thing is about, as we transform our body into these shapes, we transform energy into places around the body, as how it expresses itself within us and how we express it out into the world. Transformation is not always easy, right? There's some detours along the way. There's challenges and hiccups. Sometimes you have a plan, and sometimes you gotta throw it out the window or toss a block. Wherever it is, the journey is yours. And these resources are here to help, support, and be there for you, hand in hand, along with you. Bring your hands into your heart. Take a breath all the way in.